The Canadian Mental Health Association is recommending a ban on advertising for online gambling. The CMHA says evidence shows the ads have a detrimental impact on vulnerable individuals and their families. It says more than 300,000 Canadians are reported to be at risk of gambling-related harms, and research shows that the advertising of iGaming increases the overall consumption of gambling among those who gamble. So for more on this afternoon, we're joined live by Camille Kenville, the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Camille, let's talk about these 300,000 lives. How detrimentally are they impacted by not only these ads, but the actual prevalence of iGambling?
Potentially very detrimentally, Nick, and our big concern, to be quite honest, is young people. We're very worried about the increase we're seeing in the number of young people who are partaking in gambling. So statistics show that in 2019, it was about 4%, and in 2021, it was up to 15%. So we know a lot of young people are attracted to this iGaming, and we're very worried about the negative consequences it has for them now, but also long term.
Camille, are there any jurisdictions at all that have banned, iGambling or advertisements that is towards iGambling? And if so, what have the numbers shown there?
Not that we're aware of. Nobody has banned it entirely.
What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me it's very popular and very lucrative, and there's not enough attention being paid to the other side where the harmful effects of it can be seen. And people who are senior citizens, people who have low incomes, those who have mental health and addictions issues are very vulnerable and very susceptible. And I think the fact that there is so much advertising for iGaming draws people in, and it is without question very harmful for many people.
Well, it's interesting because if memory serves, in the province of Ontario, they were kind of looking at trying to get the celebrities out of these commercials, right? You got Connor McDavid, Wayne Gretzky, Jamie Foxx, people that, especially young people recognize, perhaps look up to as role models and idols. Would that be a good starting point, or is a blanket ban really what's necessary?
Well, that's a very good point, Nick. We've called for a blanket ban, and we're hoping to get there. But in the meantime, we've asked the province through the Alcohol Gaming and Commission to look at a few options, one of which is doing exactly as you described, banning celebrity advertisements altogether. It is very clear that this is very attractive to young people in particular. And the other piece of it is, let's take it out of prime time. All of us are watching the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. All of us are seeing these ads. They're very prolific. There's about 9 minutes per game. So let's move that out of the advertising, and let's see a little bit more attention paid to the harmful effects of iGaming in some of these ads that currently exist.
I mean, it almost sounds, Camille, like we know what happens with alcohol and tobacco. I mean, effectively, that advertising is gone. It seems to me you'd like iGaming to be treated like that. Would that be a fair assessment?
It is a very fair assessment. We have seen the impact of alcohol and tobacco and society, and I think in time we'll see the detrimental impacts of this, and we'd like to get ahead of it. And we'd like to make sure that people have the knowledge they need to be able to gamble safely and to not have this solely seen as something fun to do and something without risk. So what do you say to people who will come back at you and say, well, Camille, come on, these are legal products. Nobody's forcing anybody to sort of actually gamble here, so there's no need to ban it. This is a personal choice situation. I understand that viewpoint. I would just suggest that there isn't any attention at all associated with the harmful impacts of this. And we're simply saying, it's not that you can't gamble. We just want to pay attention to those who are vulnerable, the impact it will have on them, and also where we can put measures in place, because they do exist. There are tools that are available that we want the general public to certainly know about, but also utilize when they're gambling. So let's make sure that those are on when we're gambling. And by that, I mean that online when you're gambling, there is a tool that will tell you if you've been gambling too long, or check in terms of how much you're spending, etc. So we want to see great utilization of those tools, and we want everybody to have fun. We're not taking the fun out of it. We're just really wanting to make sure that there are safety limits in place.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of hear those boilerplate, if you gamble too much, call this number, kind of at the end of some of the ads right now. That's kind of where it sort of is almost restricted to here. You're saying that if we're going to be seeing it, that needs to be more of an emphasis. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
It would be great if it was more of an emphasis. So we don't need a commercial as long as the original indicating what all the harms are. But what we do need is much more attention paid to that, much more information readily available. And quite honestly, you know, for parents out there, I think they would want their children to actually know that there are risks associated with gambling, that there are risks associated with just playing games online for which they are spending money, and the long-term impact of that. So really just a reasonable, cautious approach is what we're asking for.
You know, Camille, what some people may also find muddy about this is some sites say they're just, you know, for entertainment only, they're just sort of playing games versus the others that are gambling. And for some, you know, less savvy consumers of media, it can be very difficult to distinguish here, can't it?
It can be very, very difficult to distinguish. So part of the safe gambling work that the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addictions has put forward is to say, first of all, no more than 1% of your income. The second part of it is to say no more than 2 games at the same time and no more than 4 days a month. So what we want to do is make sure people have those that information in their head and that they have some idea of the impact. You know, it's very clear what the impact of smoking is. It's very clear what the impact of alcohol misuse is. So we're really looking to apply those same standards on iGaming.
Okay, fascinating stuff. Great conversation. Camille Canville is the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Nick.